We just paid Ali about 4 weeks prior to him having that sort of terrible accident where he broke both of his wrists and was basically out of training in the series for 12 or 18 months. And for that matter, big question marks to whether or not he'd even come back. And I can remember we'd actually just put the money in his account. And he rung me and said, I'll refund that money to you. And I can remember saying to him, mate, we win together, we lose together. We're on this together.
That's Earl Evans, one of the most influential figures in Australian wealth management, and someone whose leadership philosophy reveals itself in moments just like that. He doesn't help people because it looks good. He helps them because he means it. Because loyalty isn't a strategy, it is his default setting. But what's fascinating is Earl doesn't just build relationships this way. He built an entire business this way too. A business run by two CEOs, a co-CEO model almost no one chooses because it requires deep trust and very little ego.
So I didn't really know him. We'd never had lunch, we'd never had breakfast, we'd never had dinner. We both had the same values. We both love Manly Warringah, we both rugby league, we both love business. And so over that 10 years, we built a phenomenal friendship. And I think the key to it is we made some boundaries in the very beginning. You make all the decisions for the back, I make all the decisions for the front. And even if we agree to disagree, let's not debate it out, let's just back each other's judgments.
You might be thinking the finance industry is littered with egos, with power plays, and with Wolf of Wall Street characters. But Earl lays that stereotype to rest, and he lets you into a different side to this industry and how you can do the same. This is the show that unlocks potential for everyday life. This is Performance Intelligence. When you stepped into that co-CEO role with Allan Zion, what did you think would be the hardest part, and what part surprised you the most?
I think the hardest part was you're trusting the process. So you're trusting that other person is going to fulfill their obligations. You've got good intent to obviously fulfill yours. So I think it's just trusting the process. For me, I think I go in with a little bit of intrepidation. Is it going to work? Isn't it going to work? But you should always go in with your best endeavours that it is going to work. And inevitably, what brings these things undone is greed. So if you go in with the mindset of
Gordon Gekko, right? Greed is good.
Yeah, no, it kills everybody. Greed and jealousy are the two worst things in the world, right? And they bring on wars, they bring on breakups, they bring on all sorts of things. And you see very dysfunctional and bad behaviour as a function of that. So for me, it was a function of saying, okay, I'm going in, eyes wide open, best foot forward, but without those two, which is not in my DNA in any case. I'd like to give, and I'm a great believer in reciprocity. So the more you put in, the more you get back. It mightn't be directly, it might be, from the sides, and it might be in a year's time, but the more you put in, you get back. And it played out very, very well.
So where did that harebrained idea first come from? Were you sitting down with Allan saying, hey, because you came up, you grew up through commercial banking, right? Yeah. So you would have been in that world. Yeah. So harebrained idea?
No, not really. Well, I spent close to 15 years at Macquarie Bank. And then really at the end of the time, I sort of really got a little bit sick and tired of bulge bracket, layers of, let's call it bureaucracy. It got a little bit bureaucratic, and albeit Macquarie, one of the great Australian institutions, and I loved my time there. It was fantastic. But I'm quite an entrepreneurial guy, and I always like to keep moving forward. I never like to look back. And so for me, the time had really come that I needed a change. And in the beginning, when I actually partnered with Allan, it was sort of, well, how's this going to work? And it was just really one of those things that in our industry, you have got your back office operation and your front office operation. So, in the front, it's from our side, it's the wealth business, it's the capital markets, it's the research, it's the institutional. And at the back end, it's P&L, it's compliance, it's IT, it's legal, it's all of those areas. So that's what Allan was very, very good at, and he'd built that. I was very good at the front end, having understood both front and back, and did actually, in my previous roles at Macquarie, manage both. So we sort of went in and said, okay, you look after the back end, I'll look after the front end. And Shaw & Partners was a complete rebuild. So it had a very good platform, but it was a very subscale business. I think at the time we had, something like $4 billion in assets and 120 people or something like that, 130 people, 2 offices, Sydney and Melbourne. So it was sort of going in saying, okay, I think we can really grow that. I think there's a massive opportunity. It's going to take time. You do what you're good at, I'll do what I'm good at. And I think the key to it is we made some boundaries in the very beginning. You make all the decisions for the back, I make all the decisions for the front. And even if we agree to disagree, let's not debate it out, let's just back each other's judgments. And Allan was very much of the same view as me. So that's why we were sort of kindred spirits, to be frank, but we did work at it. We did work at it, and pleased to say it's planned out really, really well.
It's gone all right, Earl. Yeah. $47 billion now in assets, 500 staff, recently acquired a majority stake in Auckland-based investment services group. Yeah. Do you sit here and reflect and go, how did that happen? Or do you sit here and reflect and go, I know how that happened because I've focused on what I was good at, the front end, and you've got to have access to the back end, and Allan's done his thing. Was it just a beautiful reciprocal relationship that you set up, or are you a little bit shocked sometimes when you go?
Yeah, look, I think you look back, we're close to 500 staff now, and we're not, we're at 48 billion. We paid $90 million for this New Zealand business, which is, again, if I would have said that 10 years ago, you would have thought, no, that's not going to happen. I think if I look back at it, so yes, looking back at it now, you look back at where we are and what we've done, and it's one of the top financial services businesses or practices in the country. It's significant. It's a place of choice. It's a great environment. All of those things we've really created and built it. But it was a little bit like just a piece of the jigsaw puzzle at the time. So if I reverse it, it's a bit like putting on weight. All of a sudden it creeps up on you and go, I'm 10 kilos overweight here. What did this happen? I got to lose some weight. But it was the reverse. It just kept creeping up. We'd put a little piece of the puzzle in, and then we'd put another piece of the puzzle, and then we'd put another piece of the puzzle in. And you look back and go, gee, we've got a Brisbane office, or we've got a Canberra office, or we've got a Adelaide office, and then that Adelaide office would be full, so we'd have to go and look for new premises. And in many of our locations, we're on our third premises, which is significant because they're costly to fit out, and you've got to go through builds and things on those lines. So it wasn't really a plan. The plan was always to be very, very good at what we did, one of the top practitioners in the industry, and to make sure that at the end of the day, we become a house of choice. So we really built it from the inside out. It's a very creative place. It's a really happy home. It's a flat structure. It's non-bureaucratic, which is why I actually, departed from Macquarie. And it allows people to be who they want to be. And that's really important. So we sort of built the business from the inside out. Allan was in his lane, so to speak, but was totally across what I was doing, and vice versa. He allowed me to be in my lane. But again, through communication, great communication, both of us really worked hard on being great communicators with each other and trusting each other's decisions and processes. It's been a massive success. So I do look back and think, gee, here we are now. It's quite incredible. Having said that, I wouldn't say that you'd say I'm surprised to say, geez, did we get to where it's just, and how quickly the time's gone. That's the other thing that I'm actually probably more surprised at. Before you know it's 10 years later and you think, here we are. This is incredible. What's going to happen over the next 10 years?
Do you miss having Allan? Because you co-CEO role for 9 years, and I've seen you guys at the footy. You're thick as thieves. Like, you're always there having a bit of a giggle, sometimes a serious conversation. It's a very strong, deep, trusting relationship. Yeah, you miss that?
Yeah, well, it's interesting because I didn't really know Allan. So when we went into the process, I'd made an offer to buy Shaw and Partners about 5 years prior personally, which would have meant, I don't know where Allan would have fitted in, but I saw a great opportunity. Wind the clock forward 5 years, Allan rung me and said, would you be interested in having a chat again? And so I didn't really know him. We'd never had lunch, we'd never had breakfast, we'd never had dinner. We both had the same values. We both love Manly Warringah, we love both rugby league, we both love business. And so over that 10 years, we built a phenomenal friendship, and one built on trust, similar values, similar principles. We travelled a lot. So he's become my closest friend. I love him dearly, And
you light up when you talk about him.
Yeah, he's great.
I have to give this to Allan.
Yeah, no, he's fantastic. He's one of the greatest humans I've ever met. So to answer your question, I miss him dearly. When he decided that he wanted to retire and he wanted to spend more time with his wife, Moira, who's just as beautiful, and I totally understood that. Allan's about 7 years older than me, and I got it. He's late 60s, totally understood it, talked him into staying on the board. I still speak to him every day now, still seek his advice and counsel. He's intricately still involved behind the scenes in my decision-making process. So, yeah, I do miss him on a daily basis. I've gone from co to single. It's not as much fun, I must tell you.
Are you recruiting? Would you look at getting somebody else in, or was that just a dynamic that was very unique with Allan?
Yeah. Oh, look, I think that dynamic was very rare, but not that uncommon. Like, you always hear about business partnerships. Oh, never go into partnership, they don't work. Well, maybe 75, 80% of the time they don't, and that's because of greed and jealousy, and one's doing more work than the other or whatever it might be. But there is quite a few that actually do work. There's 10, 20% of partnerships that really work, and to some degree it's like a relationship. You've got to really work at it. And for us, Allan and I split everything down the line. everything. Like there was nothing that was ever, oh, I've done a little bit more, so I deserve a bit more, or I should get a bit more of this, or geez, you took 2 trips, I should get 3 because I do a bit more work. It was always equal, and we had implicit trust. So would I do it again? If the opportunity arose, I'd be open to it. I'm sort of in my management style, I love team, I love people. I'm not a sole trader and a sole practitioner. I
never would have picked that.
No,
Earl Evans, never would have picked that, mate.
But I love team. I love people around. So would I be open to it? 100%. Like, because I like partnership. I like doing things together. I like company.
Let's go back to the brekkie table or the dinner table growing up. Family of origin has a big influence on what we end up doing. So I'd like to know a little bit more about you growing up and some of those influences as a young lad.
I come from a pretty simple background, to be honest. 2 loving parents, very good people, great humans, PAYE workers. So they, Dad was very entrepreneurial, but really struggled for great success at a large scale. And that was because of probably his upbringing as well, and didn't have many mentors and didn't have many people that sort of helped him on the journey. He was just by himself and had to sort of work it out himself. But Dad was a great communicator, a great salesman, if it will, and a great thinker. He always was thinking out of the box. And I think I had great admiration for my father, typical father-son relationship. I idolised my dad and I want to be like my dad. So he was a great communicator. To be fair, I probably got lucky because both mum and dad have got a lot of air in their wings, and they talk a lot, and I inherited that. So that's definitely helped me because I am a talker or a communicator in the modern language. So I think, again, came from a fairly simple family background, but one of non-violence, one of non-abuse, non-drugs, fairly, again, quite loving. So I was blessed in that regard. And that sort of definitely came, to me. And I think I always looked at my father and said, he didn't really have too many mentors. He had to do it all on himself. So for me, I sort of was intuitive enough, so I'm going to go down the opposite track. I'm going to take advice from a lot of people. I'm going to read a lot of books. I'm going to actually educate myself to, how can I actually grow my own brain and grow my own feelings and my own business acumen, if you will. Dad was very much constrained by his own sort of box, as lovely as he was and as loved by me as he was and by my mother. He just couldn't quite get out of that. And I made a decision very early. I'm going to think bigger, go bigger, grow bigger.
What age was that, and who were some of those people you went to start?
It really started at around 17 or 18 years of age as I started to mature and started to get into the wonderful world of sales tapes and psychology. And I can go back to some of the names: E.J. Rowan, Dennis Waitley, Tom Hopkins.
Zig Ziglar?
Did you have Ziglar? I had the old Zig.
I saw Tom Hopkins when he came to Australia. It was part of John McGrath had that series. He used to come out here every year.
He did, yeah. Well, that was in the 80s, right? So I really, bought all the tapes, listened to them. I used to dub the tapes over because I'd wear the tapes out. So
for anyone listening to this who's only grown up in the tech generation, Mum and Dad used to have cassettes, or Grandma and Grandpa had cassette tapes.
Age. But yeah, that really educated me. So I was 17, 18, and I actually loved it. I absorbed it. I loved reading books. So books was a very big part of it as well. And I remember reading a book saying, you shouldn't read a book once, you should read the book twice, because you'll only pick up 10% in the first time you read it, but you'll pick up 50%. Every book then was twice, sometimes even 3 times. I'd get the highlighter out. So that was sort of that self-education process. And I was very lucky in the early stages. There was 2 or 3 people that were my bosses. I started off in real estate for the first 4 or 5 years of my career before I got into finance, banking and stockbroking. And I just sort of really downloaded everything they had to offer and sort of got to a stage at a very early where I sort of outgrew them. And I was smart enough or intuitive enough to realise, I need to go on to do other things.
In researching you, looking at the internet but talking to a few other people, one of the concepts that came out that I was really fascinated by is this process of loose-tight. Working in banking and financial services, and I've worked a lot in that industry over 15 to 20 years. It's highly compliant, there's regulators, but you've got this beautiful blend between loose-tight. Can you tell us about that and how that evolved?
Yeah, look, I mean, that's something that I think It's one of those finance vernaculars that has been around for a long time. But, I think you got to be loose around entrepreneurship and sort of tight around how you run your own disciplines, processes, structures, and business, be it P&L, compliance, whatever it might be. So, again, trying to really push the boundaries on entrepreneurship and not being afraid of failure, being prepared to grow, being prepared to, it's a little bit like a muscle. As you would know, you know more about this than me, but you've got to break it to build it bigger. And business is very much the same. Break it open. Don't be afraid of change. And what's successful today is not going to be successful tomorrow. People are always on your tail. Businesses are always trying to evolve and change. So that's that entrepreneurial side. And I think around the tightness, I think like anything, tight is about being, disciplined, making sure your processes are in place and stick to your processes and don't be conscious of it. A lot of people confuse the two. They get entrepreneurial and they get very successful and they start to actually dilute their own processes. So really keep your processes, make sure you keep your structures, keep your disciplines around your P&L, not too much leverage. You got to have leverage, but not too much, and your compliance, all of those things, the legal side, and make sure those disciplines are kept in place, but still keep pushing the boundaries on the front end of the business, that entrepreneurial. And again, I live by never looking over your shoulder. Just keep looking forward. You have to keep moving forward. If you stub your toe, you have a failure, you have a staff member that leaves you that's impactful in your business, keep looking forward. No regrets. Keep looking forward. Learn by your bad decisions, but don't ponder on them too much. Just keep looking forward and keep moving forward, which is very, very important.
Where were you, Earl Evans, in my early to mid-20s? I was in Hobart at the Tasmanian Institute of Sport and I started a personal training business. And I was running the gym at the Rest Point Hotel Casino in Launceston Country Club. I'm early 20s and I had no idea about running a business, but I was good at relationships and I could get results with people. A couple of influential people in Tasmania lost a fair bit of weight. A couple of politicians, a few business owners, and my business boomed. I had 6 staff within 18 months. I thought I'd get a couple of kayaks because they're on a beautiful rest point on the Derwent River. So why buy 2? I bought 10 and a trailer. Rather than just having clothes. At one stage, I had magnets on my car. Another story for another day. I was loose. There was no tightness back then.
Yeah,
so
no, you got to crawl before you can walk. That's the key to it. But
it's a blend though, isn't it? Because like a lot of entrepreneurs are like, bang, I'm going to back myself. Yeah. But they run out of money. And if they could have gone for another 6 weeks, 6 months, big deal, something around the corner. It's a real dance between the two.
It's a balance, and it's a balance between maintaining a little bit of conservatism as opposed to saying, hey, we're going to expand and grow, and you do have to take a little bit on your plate, whether it be leverage or whatnot, but you've really got to make sure. I mean, again, there's so many things that kill, whether greed, jealousy. Greed is just such a big one where you just think, I can have more. And a lot of people don't actually stop to think, well, what does more actually mean? What does more mean? Is it going to change my life if I get more? In a lot of cases, it won't. So what do you need more? You want more because it's part of the development process, the growth process, and just part of a cycle of just continuing to move forward. But a lot of people want more because of just greed. In fact, it actually doesn't change their life, so why take on the risk? You're not going to go and buy a bigger house from it. You're not going to go and buy an extra car. Some might. But at the end of the day, what does actually more mean to you? What's it going to actually change? And so for me, that loose tight, I always start all of my investment decisions or all my business decisions. The very first thing I do is put the black hat on and think of where's the back door? What can go wrong? Where's my escape at the end of the day if it fails? Once I know that, then I actually put the white hat on and say, okay, what's the blue sky? What's the upside? What can I do from here? How do I grow that business? And I've sort of really, I suppose, developed that over many, many years. But, that black hat, white hat, a lot of people just put the white hat on. It's this. And sometimes it's, a success, but a lot of times it actually fails.
So if anyone listening to this, he's not talking about putting on the All Blacks black cap.
That's
no. His thinking caps, which is a really good framework of different decisions. Yeah. What I've found interesting getting to know you more, your leadership isn't just collaborative and about human connection. When I first met you, he's this affable, gregarious, giving guy. But the back end, it's incredibly disciplined, it's rigorous, and it's grounded in principles of high performance. Again, proof, leading without ego doesn't mean leading without standards.
Yeah. I think, again, you got to set the standard. You got to lead by example. If there's something on the ground, pick it up yourself, lead by example. They're the little things along the lines of, again, that leader casts a tall shadow. It's that sort of principle that you have to do. But you're only as strong as the weakest link, and you've got to make sure that you're not that weakest link. I think a lot of leaders actually ultimately end up being the weakest link, don't know when to move on, don't know when they need to actually ask for help. And again, for me, I like to just park my ego off to the side. I'd like to think that I'm not an egotist. Yes, I'm a little bit loud and a little bit sort of gregarious in some ways, but I think I'm quite humble. I try to stay quite grounded, and you're only as good as the people around you. And they're great sayings, you're only as good as the people around you, but I actually live by it. I really like good people around me. I make sure that at the end of the day, everyone's having a good time, and I give them what they need. They give me what I need from an educational perspective, a business perspective, an environment perspective. And I so read the room. A lot of people don't read the room. So, when I go to the footy and I know my shortcomings. I'll never know as much as what some of these people are that have done it all of their lives. So for me to go in there and go, you should do this and you should do that, and we lost because of this, you just got to be aware of your environment and the people that you're with. But, for me, performance is, you got to work for performance. It never comes easy, never ever comes easy. Sport, business, all of it. It's a continual process. Continual, and you would know that.
Yeah, nice segue as well, transitioning to sport, but it's illuminating to see how you've used collaboration and shared leadership, but that's at the heart of everything you do. And then you focus on teamwork and high performance. That's not just the work you do. When we go to your office, like I've been to your office a number of times, it's almost a shrine to sport. So you really do build in your passion for sport in everything you do, again, based on frameworks and that tight, loose format. So let's talk about that. How does sport fit into your life, and why is it so important? Like, why do you have such an obsession about sport?
There's a couple of reasons for it, and I've grown up loving sport. Like I can remember watching my first Bathurst when I was 5 or 6 with my dad, or I just, at the end of the day, there's a couple of things. I love the competitiveness of it, so I love the competitive nature. I sort of like the failure of it, because the failure means you have to actually regroup, rebuild, put the pieces together to win. If you just won every day, winning became the norm. It'd be fun for a while, but it's not that much fun.
Just choose when you say that to your sporting teams.
After a loss.
Hey guys, failure's part of it. This is great. This is growth.
Well, you learn from it. It's part of the growth process. So, I love the numerics of sport. So I like math. I love numbers. So I really love the numerics. When you can break everything down statistically on all forms of, whether it be football, whether it be motor racing, whether it be tennis, whether it be, Roger Federer gives that great stat about only winning 51% of the points, and or losing. I think I was 51% of the points, and but winning 49%. Winning, and taking, what did he win, 21 Grand Slams or some crazy number like that. So I like all of the math side of sport, but I think sport is a great equaliser. It's a great equaliser, and it in our business, you're right. When you walk in, you think we'd run a sports company, not manage close to $50 billion worth of assets.
And we'll give people a bit of an insight into the sports you're involved in, and let me know if I've missed any. Well, Manly Warringah, the mighty Manly Warringah Seagulls, Red Bull Ampol Racing in the V8 Supercars, Shaw and Partners Coolangatta Gold, the iconic Coolangatta Gold, Shaw and Partners Iron Series, which is surf lifesaving and surf sports, the World Ocean Series, Shaw and Partners 18-foot skiff race team, also an involvement with the ACT Brumbies, some community sports involvement. What have I missed?
Yeah, there's quite a bit out there. Some stuff in Adelaide and Western Australia, the Shaw and Partners WA Race Week. We do a whole week of ocean kayaking. There's about 1,000 competitors. I think, again, that's putting back into the community. That's part of our business. It's been very good to build our brand. We would never put our brand on the top of a building. That's for other companies to do. We're a little bit more low-key than that. We like to get involved in the community. We like to get involved in all of the bodies that we actually partner with. We sponsor quite a few Olympians and follow them on their journey all the way through to...
In your office, there's photos of rowing, of canoeing. Like, you're obsessed about sport, aren't you?
Yeah, it's good. It's fantastic. Well, me and the staff, like everyone loves it. You come and work Monday and you're talking about the footy, or you're talking about the Olympics that just passed June of last year or July of last year, or you talk about the motor racing. We had a terrible weekend, 888 racing, and it was pretty average actually on the Sunday. We thought we had the championship wrapped up, and we basically didn't execute, and somebody else won the title. So dust yourself off after a few days, process it, have the conversations about how unfair it is or how unlucky we were, or whoever perspective that you want to look at. So, okay, how do we rebuild going forward? How do we come back in 26 and actually win the title? So for us, it's about all of it's, and again, that's that collaborative. So in a lot of our offices, the states, the actual individual states, be it Adelaide or Queensland or Western Australia or Victoria, they make the decision on actually what they want to actually sponsor in their offices. So what's relevant to them. So rather than me self-servingly as a CEO sit here and go, we're going to do this or we're going to do that, a lot of the decision-making process is actually by the staff members of each office. And that brings that collaboration, and it just plays beautifully into our organisation. So a lot of people do look at us and go, gee, what are they doing with all these sponsorships? So instead of investing the money on the name of a building or some big digital media campaign, which a lot of people do, we just decide to put it into sports. And normally it's grassroots sort of stuff. Certainly supercars. I'm an owner of the 888 race team, so that was a perfect fit. Manly, it's been a lifelong passion. Was brought up on the North Shore and I've loved Manly all of my life, so it's sort of like a dream.
We love your involvement with Manly, Earl.
Can you believe we've got our name on the jersey? It's like mind-blowing, and it's coming up to nearly 10 years. Alan's a mad Manly fan, so that's how that actually came about. But everything else is really by collaboration with all the staff and the team.
2 questions on that. One is, and you don't have to get into the numbers, but do you look at a percentage of revenue or profit that you invest and then you just empower the different states?
Yeah, we do. Yeah, so we look at it. We probably I'm a bit of a sucker for someone saying, can we do this? Okay, let's do it. We'll work out a way to sort it out. So probably do a little bit more than what we should. But yeah, we do work on a percentage of revenue.
Let's say, pick a generic name. Peter, could be P-E-T-E-R or P-E-T-A, joins Shaw and Partners, and they're not into sport. How's that go down?
Well, it's okay. Depends on what they're involved in. We do a lot in the arts. So we actually do a lot in the arts. We do a lot around theatre. We do a lot around musical productions, and again, grassroots. So we do a lot at the children's level. So sponsoring programs like Rise, which is a program in Sydney and Victoria, where they actually bring a whole lot of kids together for a 1-week program, talking to them about dancing and stage and the like, but also about mental health and collaboration, community, and being good to one another. So we do a lot around that sort of stuff. So yeah, look, they'll learn to love sports. Everyone falls in love with it ultimately, but at the end of the day, again, even if it's in other areas, we do polo in Adelaide. They love the polo, so we do something there. I know nothing about polo, and it doesn't really excite me all that much, but they love it. We've done things in swimming. Again, I'm not big fascinated with swimming, but other people are, so we've done something in those areas. So we're open to all ideas. It doesn't necessarily just need to be sport, but as you know, 90% of people love sport, so that's where it's gravitated to.
Can you share a story with an athlete that you've been involved in and you've seen a huge difference as a result of the sponsorship or maybe the mentoring or even just backing someone, the confidence that you're in their corner? Has a person come to mind?
Yeah, it's a good question. We've partnered and helped dozens, and it could even be hundreds, to be honest with you. So without sort of mentioning names, I think if I look at the Iron series as a very good example, there's not a lot of money in it. It's super competitive. I think they're probably arguably...
They are so just amazing. The disciplines to run, to swim, to paddle, to read the waves of the ocean like they do.
Underappreciated. And I think, probably in Australia it was really appreciated, 30, 40 years ago, maybe 20 years ago, the Uncle Toby series. I think in the last 20 years it's been a little bit lost, but it's making a big resurgence back. But a lot of those kids, we've really helped financially to allow them to do what they want to do. So whether that be sponsoring from a cash perspective, and, these kids are doing sort of 10, 12, 14 sessions a week. And each session's, anywhere from an hour to 3 hours. It's extraordinary. So sort of to help them from not having to go and get a job or not having to have a part-time job, and going on a bit of the journey with them and saying, hey, we want to win the Shaw and Partners Coolangatta Gold this year, right? That's the goal. What do you need? Oh, well, I could do with actually not doing that actual part-time job, and this is what I earn. Okay, let's fill that gap in. Right, what else do you need? Oh, I could do with 2 physio sessions a week. Okay, send that bill to us. So lots of things like that, and you can certainly see in that area where it really makes a significant difference to the high-end athletes, and that's something that's been very fulfilling to me personally. It's been fulfilling to Allan, and again, it's a real give back and putting back in that's that reciprocity, and it makes you feel pretty special. And they're a special bunch of people that actually do that sport. So across the board, like with a lot of the football players, we give them a lot of financial advice and whatnot. Quite often we give them a financial pathway. We do it for nothing. We say, come in and see us. We're not really after your money. We actually just want to help you. We're not sort of here saying, oh, we want to live vicariously through you. That's not the way we're built. We don't need the Instagram photos with, make us look good, not interested in any of that stuff. It's about genuinely trying to help. That's been very fulfilling. But it's been a great journey with the athletes over the last dozen years.
One of those athletes who's done a Coolangatta gold or two, in fact, he's won 11 of them. We spoke to him before the interview, so I'm going to play you an excerpt from Ali Day.
It's hard to put into words what Earl means to me and what our relationship is. He is by far the hardest worker I know. He is also probably the most generous person that I know as well. And there's a lot of stories out there that a lot of people wouldn't know about the things that he's done in terms of giving back to people that just go unnoticed and go behind the scenes. And I know some of those stories, and it just goes to show how special this person is. I'm lucky that our paths crossed almost 8 to 9 years ago. I'm so grateful that I've had Earl in my life. He inspires me to work harder, to be a better person and to give back. He's been there through not only the highs, but the lows, more importantly, in my career. He's helped me as an athlete and also as a father, as a person, as a husband outside of sport. And it's a relationship that I'm extremely grateful that I have. We've got 2 series that are sponsored by Earl that you can go and turn up to every single weekend and race around the country for amazing prize money. So just the opportunities that Earl's provided and what he's done for our sport and surf lifesaving is second to none.
Yeah, very humble. Very, very, very humbled by that. He's a great human. He's a great athlete, but he's a great human. And
you took a couple of big breaths in the middle of that.
I could get teary on that.
Yeah, I was watching the big blue eyes start to get a bit wispy. What did you feel?
I think you do all these things and you put in, I'm not looking for recognition. That's not what I do it for. It's the satisfaction of sharing the journey or sharing the road with somebody. That's what it's all about, and it helps that Ali obviously has achieved great success and he aligns with me in lots of things, right? He's a perfectionist. I'm probably a perfectionist. He's a hard worker. I'm definitely a hard worker.
He's a connector.
He is a connector. And, I can remember at the time we just paid Ali about 4 weeks prior to him having that sort of terrible accident where he broke both of his wrists and was basically out of training in the series for 12 or 18 months. And for that matter, big question marks to whether or not he'd even come back. And I can remember we'd actually just put the money in his account. And he rung me and said, I'll refund that money to you. And I can remember saying to him, mate, we win together, we lose together. We're on this together. You'll need that money because you're coming back, and you need to make sure we get this right and your health is right and your mental health is right. That means a lot hearing those words. You don't get a lot of people say that sort of stuff, to be honest with you. It's one of those things that if you're looking for commentary back and thank you and you're wonderful and all that, then you shouldn't be doing it. So that's actually overwhelming to actually hear that.
You could look at a P&L or a spreadsheet and you go, you're almost $50 billion in management. The look that I saw in the middle of that and the feeling in the room, you don't get that from a spreadsheet.
No, you definitely don't.
That's
you definitely don't.
Connection. It's love. Yeah. Like you hear the words in Ali. And when I spoke to Ali, he said, I love her. Like he's just such a good man.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you don't do it for that, but it's lovely when that happens. He's one of the special ones. But there's lots of them out there. And again, you don't do it for publicity. I don't do any of this for the publicity. I do it for self-education. I do it to educate other people. I do it to give back. Like I said earlier, I'm a great believer in reciprocity. If you put in, it'll come back. I've made plenty of mistakes in my life. Trust me, plenty. Things that you look at and go, gee, I could have handled that better, done that better. Somewhat in sometimes you look at regret, although I try not to regret. I always like to, like I said, just keep looking forward, but learn from your mistakes, learn from your shortcomings. And all of these great athletes are the same. They have their own insecurities like everybody else. They're great at the front out there, but behind the scenes they're just as insecure as everybody else, me included. You try to sort of build up on that. But yeah, some of the journey with some of the athletes, whether it be in motor racing or whether it be in rugby league or whether it be in Ironman and iron women racing. I had have got a great relationship with Georgia Miller, Love G, when she again was leading.
Phenomenal athlete.
Just unbelievable. Legend of the sport. And, when she was leading the Coolangatta Gold and basically had it won and made a little bit of a decision that was a boo-boo and her feet blistered up and she just with, a couple of K to go had to stop. That's a challenge. How do you help and how do you assist and what do you say? And really difficult. As the champions they are, they always come back and do what they do best.
But Ali did tell me as well that you've been known to match prize money, and so there's what we know of and there's a lot of stories we don't know of.
Yeah. Yeah, I just think it's quite often I'll ring the athlete and afterwards and say, what was your prize money? It's XYZ, send me an invoice and I'll actually match that. And I suppose that's my way of just really appreciating what they do. I don't always, I don't do it pre, so it's always post, depending on how I'm feeling and whether I think they've really done a great job or they've ground it out or where they are in their life. So it's not something that I'll say to them, hey, I'll match all your prize money generally. Done it a few times, but generally it's after the event where just you look at that and you're so overwhelmed with just how well they've gone. And then you look at the check and I'll say $25,000 for a Coolangatta Gold win. Well, in any other sport, after you've ground it out, grilled it out, it should be 50 or 100, to be honest with you. Now, that's not anybody's fault. That's just the way the sport is. So I have done that a lot. And also, too, when people have won their first race, or for that matter, even got on the podium or a second or a third, which is, an overachievement for a lot of people, you like to help. I look back, I've helped lots of people with deposits on houses and various bits and pieces. Lots of athletes tried to work with them on their own personal financial journey and say, look, I'll give you this, but you're not spending it on XYZ. We're putting it over here and helping with a deposit on a property or doing something on those lines. So again, to me, that's been one of the most fulfilling things of my work career. I've loved doing that, and it's not something that you want to get adulation for or anything like that. I just think that's just putting back and giving back, and it's a lovely thing to do.
I'm about to give you more. I'm starting to feel like Mike Munro. You remember that? This is your life. Earl Evans, this is your life. I give you
a lot of people do this stuff.
The big leather embossed folder. We've got another one. Let's play an audio clip from a man known as Turbo, the recently appointed captain of the mighty Manly Warringah Seagulls.
Yeah, look, it's hard to put into words what Earl and Allan, but you're in the spotlight today, Earl. What he's done, for me throughout my life and my career. It's you rarely meet people like him. He's the most caring, generous person, walks planet Earth, and the opportunities he's given me to be the best rugby league player and person is just incredible. And I've had some awesome experiences, some of the best times, of my life I've shared beside him, and he's given me opportunities to do stuff that I never would have been able to before. So, look, I can't thank him enough and for everything he's done, and, I'm really lucky to call him a mate because, he's a special person to me and he's a special person to the Manly Football Club, and I'll always have a place for him wherever we go because he's an absolute legend. But love you, Earl. Enjoy the potty.
There you go. Well, that's again just humbling. It's you don't do these things for those sort of comments back. You do them because you think it's the right thing and you love to do it. And that's very nice. It's very humbling. He's a great kid, And again, he's a little bit like an Ali. He's just such a gifted athlete, but he's worked so hard. He's one of the best trainers, and he's had the highest of highs. And as you would know, you the lowest of lows, injury after injury, just when he's coming back to his peak form. And I suppose that's where I've played my part to sort of try to help him. And he has a lot of people on the journey other than just me, obviously. But I remember he was out for a considerable time, and I rang the club and said, look, I don't know if this is the right thing to do, but Allan and I are actually going overseas. We're going away for 4 or 5 days, and just to get his mind off it, I wonder whether he would be interested in coming with us. And we're a little bit older than him, and we like to go to dinner at 6 o'clock and be in bed by 9 and all of those sorts of things. Would he be interested? Like, great idea. So I rang him up and said, look, I'd love you to come with us. And we spent like 3 or 4 days, and I actually brought Shannon Eckstein, another great Ironman, and Gary Warman, one of the owners of Manly. And we ended up putting together a group of about 4 or 5 people, and it was great just to spend some quality time and get his mind off it. We helped him when he had that injury financially to go overseas and get rehabilitation. And that's very special.
Overseas with you, it was a different world. He said he didn't realise that world existed. I think you opened his eyes to the, corporate travel and just a great opportunity.
Yeah, no, it was great. And again, situations that are awesome because you get to actually spend quality time with people. Quite often after a footy game, you're in the sheds afterwards and you're commiserating or celebrating. But getting to spend quality time with the individuals is just really important to me. I like to. The problem is you get that busy and your life's so full, and I have 2 children of my own and my wife, and you're that busy. But I love spending the quality time and trying to genuinely help. I get massive satisfaction out of helping. Like giving and helping are 2 of my greatest satisfying things. Taking and keeping is pretty boring, and you're earning and you're creating to give back. It's like watering a tree, and it's that reciprocity. It comes back to me. It has come back to me hugely in my life.
It's blatantly obvious, Earl, that purpose, collaboration, and investing in people are central to your philosophy, both at work and also in sport. I want to go a step further and let's talk about the 3 Ps. I want to talk about purpose, philanthropy, and philosophy, the 3 big Ps. What stands out when you look at everything you do as a leader, a sponsor, a mentor, is this theme of purpose. So if I ask you right here, right now in the studio, can you articulate your personal purpose for me?
That's a tough one.
Wasn't in the running sheet, was it?
No, that wasn't in the running sheet. Purpose. I'm very fatalistic. So I have a view that, if I live my life to the average life of the average male Australian, 82, 83, the US, I think it's 79. I'm 60 years of age. I've got 22, 23 years on the planet.
A correction, because we're going to have a chat, so we're going to talk about
you're going to help me
high-end
out.
Human performance assessment. Mate, we're locking in 90 to 100. So, ladies and gents, I've just bought the big fella another 10 or 15. No, I'm serious. We'll chat about that offline.
So for me, I've always taken a view that you're here for a finite period. So, there's plenty of cemeteries full of the richest guys. There's plenty of people in the cemetery. They don't come out generally. You go in and no one comes out. So my purpose is to live a really fulfilled life. Like I said, I've done lots of wonderful, wonderful things, and I've done some things I look back on and think, gee, I wish I didn't do that, and I made a mistake, and that was terrible. And how do you rectify that, and how do you change that? So for me, my purpose is about I'm one of the lucky ones. I'm in a highly paid industry. I get to mix with lots of wonderful people, is to give back, put back. I'm not a big lover of legacy. I think that's a bit of a sort of, for me anyway, I'm not trying to create a legacy, but I am trying to create something that's a platform that other people can take and go to the next level with and do better than what I've done with it. So my purpose day to day is to get up with a smile, be happy, be fulfilled, do the things that make me happy, be with good people that give me something and I give back to them. That's very, very important. And that really fulfills me. And that might not, if I go back 25, 30 years ago, it was work, work, work. I want to be wealthy. I want to be this. I want to be that. That's maturity and growth over your life cycle. And as I've created wealth, which has given me far more opportunities than I ever thought would probably be available to me, I think it's my obligation to give back.
Do you like the movie Jerry Maguire?
Don't mind it, yeah.
You know who you remind me of?
No.
The late, great Dickie Fox. I had this in my back pocket. I wasn't sure whether we're going to play it or not. You know where I'm going with this?
No.
Wiz, can you play that clip and bring it over? It's a video I text to Thomas.
I assure the viewers this was not planned. I didn't know anything about this.
I don't know what I'm doing half the time, Earl. Come and spend a day with me, mate.
I love getting up in the morning. I clap my hands and say, this is going to be a great day.
You're the Australian
that's
version.
Me. That's me.
I know. I was watching you doing that, thinking party's taking the piss, but then looking at me go, I clap my hands. Today's going to be a great day. I know you're very connected to your wife. I've heard you on Gus Worland's podcast just talk about how important family is. You're Dickie Fox.
Well, I look like everything, you got to put in and it comes back to you. And I like hanging around people that it's half full. A loss is an opportunity to come back and win. A loss is an opportunity to learn. A win is a win and should be celebrated. Relationships are tough. They go through ups and downs. A lot of people separate, come back together, do all sorts of things, right? Life's not linear. It's bloody hard, and you got to take your lickings, learn from them and move forward. But I do get up every morning and I do clap my hands and I do say this is going to be a great day. And again, mainly because I'm fatalistic. We're here for a finite period of time. Whenever I'm a great believer that death is a gift from the person that's passed. So death is a gift from it's a reminder that we're all going there. We're all dying, just some faster than others. So if you can get me to 100, I'm taking it, but we're all dying. And so at the end of the day, if you look at life as in a 1 meter ruler, it's slowly getting less and less. So don't waste time looking over your shoulder. Don't waste time being negative. Don't waste time trying to be this purest life. There isn't such thing as purity. Just live your best life, whatever that might be. And the one thing that probably life has sort of taught me, money is great. It gives you opportunity. It gives you maybe more choices. But let me tell you, it doesn't make happiness. And some of my happiest days are sitting on the beach watching an Ironman race, or actually sitting there and having a cup of tea or coffee with, Ali Day or Shannon Exton or Georgia Miller or Brock Feeney or people like that, and saying, tell me about that. Let's have a look at that race. Break that down for me, and learning about things. That's probably some of my most fulfilling times, other than obviously with Katie or the kids or watching them. That goes without saying. But from a business perspective, helping somebody create their own business career, trying to get ahead of it and stop them from making some of the mistakes that I've made in my life, that you say, hey, learn from me. That's the best gift you can give people. But money just gives you more opportunity, but it definitely doesn't make you happy. There's no question.
There's a lot of research around when you give to others, you receive back tenfold.
5,000%.
And that is so obvious.
Yeah.
Really enjoyed getting to know you, to research you, and just looking, we say good day in the sheds, but I've never really pulled on that thread. And that's what I love about a podcast. You can go deep with someone. We caught up about a month ago in your office. You had a Diet Coke, I had a coffee, and you told me about a birthday party that you had recently where you invited a lot of your close friends. Yeah. I'm going to copy that. Can you tell our audience what you did?
Yeah, so I had my 60th, and I took up, I can't remember, 11 or 12 of my mates. There were different friends, and some of my closest friends, and normally you have a 50th or a 60th. We're celebrating his 60th, and to me, this was the opposite. We went away to Hawaii for a week. I said, let's go up there. We'll do some paddling in the ocean and, have some fun times. We got up every morning and went for a walk for about an hour and a half, then came back and went for a swim. And I booked a private room on the first night, and I said, look, this week is not actually about me. So it's actually about you. And it's my way of thanking you for what you've given me in my life. So I don't want to be here celebrating me and my 60th. I actually want to celebrate our friendship and what it's all about. And I read a note or said a little speech about every single person, went around the room to what they meant in my life, what they'd actually given me. And I think some of them probably didn't know what they'd given me. Why am I actually here? But, they're just very special people in my life. They're people that I sort of, I value. And it was my way of thanking them. So it wasn't about celebrating me. And he's 60 and isn't he a great guy? It was actually about celebrating them. And that was very, very important to me to do. Went through all of them and said, love to do this again when I'm 70. So, or take your advice and I'll be here till I'm 80, 90 and 100. And that's that give back piece, that's that. If I had people say, what would you do differently? I'd want to come back as me. I've had the best life. I've loved my life. And my success has been great in many different areas. And my failings have been not so good, but at the end of the day, I've learned from them and I've recreated and I've made sure I've evolved and I've changed and I've done better. And that's also part of that real fulfilling piece. So it's not just all gravy, it's not just all gravy, but that giving back and charity, it's very, very important. It's incredibly fulfilling. And I've found it, giving back, charity, one of the, some of the most fulfilling things in my life. But yeah, that was a great week. I was a bit sore and tired at the end of it. It was great. We never had one boozy night where we woke up with a hangover. We all sort of had a bit of a plan what we're going to do. It was just awesome. Had a lot of laughs, a lot of belly aches.
There's a red thread through our conversation. There's a red thread through everything you do. The G word, gratitude. You're very grateful, you're very respectful, you give to others and you get back.
That was one of the things that Allan and I actually together felt very much the same. So, as our business grew, I saw Allan grow enormously as a human being. And Allan was a guy that hadn't really given back that much. And primarily because not he was a bad human, he just didn't know. And when we started in the beginning doing it, even he said, this is very satisfying. This is incredibly satisfying.
What a gift that you gave him to feel.
Well, he gave me a few too. Don't worry about that. But giving back is just so important. I think philanthropy, that's that giving back. And it doesn't need to be money. It can be hours. We give away 1,200 hours of work paid time, allowing our staff to go out and do things for charitable groups that they want to do. Not what I want to do, what they want to do. So they get to choose. They want to go and hand food out to the homeless or wash clothes for the homeless or whatever it might be. Our job's to support it. And I think anybody at any level of success should do it. And lots of people do it. So there's a lot of Earl Evanses out there. Trust me, I don't sit here and think I'm anything different to anybody else. As my dad often said to me, oh, your shit stinks the same as everybody else, right? So we're all just human beings, 2 ears, 1 mouth, 2 arms. We do the best we can.
So we go to a cemetery, we're not coming back.
100%.
I like how you frame philanthropy. It's not just giving money. You could give time, or you could give experience. It could be a conversation with a young athlete. 100%. It could be someone else.
Many layers of it.
Working in finance, you could say, hey, here's something I've learned from. Yes. So you can give back in multiple ways. I think that's important for our audience. If you're sitting here and listening to this or watching on YouTube, it's not just about giving a percentage of your money away. As you said, you're just so grateful, almost surprised, I think, how much you've earned. So you've got that opportunity to give back financially, but it can be so many other ways.
Again, in the first 10 or 20 years, I've always probably been a generous person, and I've always probably given back. Philanthropy is something that I didn't really have much to do with up until I sort of got involved in my 40s. And Macquarie was one of the firms that actually taught me the art of giving back. I think they have one of the great charitable foundations that's completely underrated in this country. I think it's one of the largest. They've given away, I don't know what the number is, but it's got to be close to $1 billion. And that their matching policy of, you go and raise some money and they'll actually juice it up and match it. And that's how we started our foundation. Our foundation, we started, I should say, in September 2015. The last 10 years we're just about to touch $15 million. Allan and I have given away a lot of money privately ourselves on top of that. And again, it's just been very fulfilling. But then the next layer down is some people don't have the capital to be able to give out, so they can give time. And time is very, very valuable, incredibly valuable. So, we give, like I said, 1,200 hours a year away. That's very fulfilling. That's been something to see staff engage, and where, our boardrooms would get used once or twice a week around the country. We always allow any philanthropy to come and any charity to come and do fundraisings or board meetings or whatever it might be, use any of our facilities, our kitchen facilities, period, boardrooms, anything, to help that charitable group grow. What has probably given me a lot of satisfaction, we're fairly heavily involved with the Sydney Children's Hospital. That's been great at a high end. But a lot of the grassroots, we've really tried to work with grassroots where they struggle to get capital, struggle to get, funds to fulfill their ambitions. And we really try to get the staff to engage at a grassroots level with the underfunded, smaller charitable groups that you probably wouldn't have heard of, whether it be in domestic violence or whether it be in, mental health for male and female or, just a whole range of things. Gotcha for Life's been awesome. As you know, I'm great mates with Gus Worland, and that's been just, again, very fulfilling. It's been a humbling journey, no question about it.
Two threads on that. Number one, I'd love to challenge our audience as they're listening or watching. How do they give back? How do you give back? So if you're sitting here right now, can you give some money? Can you give some time? Can you give some wisdom or experience? Because I know as well some of the work I do, it's nothing on the scale. You've put a bit of a rocket under me today, Earl. Joys of a podcast, you get to know somebody, but you also reflect, and I'm looking forward to listening back and really listening to some of those messages and threads. So the challenge for me and our audience is to think, how can you give back? How can you make a little bit of a difference with whatever resources you have? And second, Gus Worland. Interesting you mentioned Gus. I've got one more audio for you.
Surprise again.
Where do I start when I talk about Earl? He's not only a great friend, but he's a mentor, a man that I can talk to about absolutely anything. I can be completely vulnerable with him and he'll give it to me straight between the eyes. He'll give you a cuddle when you need a cuddle. He'll give you some stern advice when you need to get some stern advice. I've never met anyone so generous. If he decides that you're the right type of person and he wants to support you, then there's absolutely nothing that he won't do for you. And that's an incredible thing in this world, to have someone who's in your corner. Unconditional love, unconditional support, but not only that, he'll go along for the ride with you. He'll have heaps of fun with you. We've had the most incredible fun all around the world in the last few years together. He's backed and supported everything that I do personally and at Gotcha for Life. And I can say honestly with my hand on my heart that I wouldn't be the man I am today without the influence and the mentorship of Earl Evans. He's a very, very special person. I love him like he is my big brother.
That's nice. Very, very nice. Very nice.
A lot of love.
Yeah. He's a good human too, right?
He's a great job, Gussie.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's that creating, and Gus and I spent a lot of time together. I love what he is doing for men's health and for women's health or mental health. It's grassroots. It should be government funded, and it's not. So if there's anybody in the federal or state government listening, they need to actually help people like that. I know you can't help everybody, but it's just a great organisation. It's humbling the way he actually started that. And for him to leave media or radio media to actually go and do that full time, I think says a lot about
big job, isn't
Gus.
It?
Yeah. So, we've created lots of things. We created the Gotcha for Life Cup, which is the East versus the North, Manly versus Roosters. And it's a tough pill to swallow. Manly have lost 4 out of 4. So I'm giving it one more year. I was aware of that.
Come on, we've got to go this year. Gus, we'll make sure Gus listens to this. Gus,
and Gus is a mad Rooster supporter,
have a chat to Ches, have a chat to the boys of Roosters. Come on, give us one back so Earl can continue sponsoring.
No, great human being, and but again, he's just given me an enormous bout, and he's illuminated to me something I didn't know a lot about. I didn't know a lot about mental health. On the surface I knew about it, obviously, but some of the real hard stories. You talk about what you can do for people. Quite often we walk past homeless and just think, oh, they've just wasted their life or they've done something. Or sadly, there's that many of them that you get used to it. You get shot by, you just walk straight past it. And it might just be actually saying to them, hey, how you going? It might just be saying, hey, can I go and buy you actually a cup of coffee or a cup of tea? It might say, can I go and buy you a loaf of bread? And some of the stories behind how people become homeless from domestic violence, from mental health, from a system that's failed them is significant. And to me, again, I just think you can't fix everybody, you can't fix everything, but you can make a difference. And if every person just took that attitude, and worth repeating, you can't fix everything, you can't solve every problem, but you can actually help and you can make a difference. And I think that's, if I get to the end of my life, whenever it might be, I know it's coming. Like I say, we're all dying, just some faster than others. I was the other day I went and saw a friend that's actually going through chemotherapy interstate. Dropped in and they're going through three-week sessions of chemotherapy. And if you ever want to wake up in the day and feel happy, I feel great, just spend a moment of time and go to a children's hospital, go to a hospital like that, and realise just how privileged you are to walk down the street, breathe beautiful fresh air, look at beautiful blue skies, actually mix with people and live a life. Because people are going to those hospitals and they ain't coming out. For me, I draw strength from that. I'm not wasting a day. I want to win a premiership. I want to continue to grow Shaw and Partners. I want to be happy every day and I want to make a difference, whatever that may be.
Give me your hands. We'll put your hands out. We're going to use the imaginary crystal ball. We'll add some gypsy music. On the crazy gypsy. Earl, we're looking at your future 10 years from now. What does it look like?
More of the same. More of the same. So I don't have any...
Couple of premierships, couple of V8 supercar
Could you
titles.
imagine? Could you imagine? I did actually think the other day, I actually woke up the other day and said, again, I'm quite fatalistic, but I said to Katie, if I live another 20, 25 years, there is a chance that we could be like Parramatta and I may never see Manly win a premiership. Like, can you imagine 40, 45 years not winning a premiership? Like, it's actually...
It's not going to happen.
It breaks your heart. Oh, bloody hell, I hope
Seeps, like listeners, big Seeps.
But again, that's that passion of sport. I think just more of the same. The last 10 years of my life, I'm a different guy to what I was. Like I said, my 20s, 30s and 40s. My last 10 years of my life has been wonderful. And if you said, what's it going to be like in 10 years' time, it's going to be more of what I've done in the last 10 years. So it will definitely be more business. I love business. Business I always find challenging and stimulating. It's definitely going to be more sport and it's going to be more people.
Any other sports you'd like to scratch an itch on?
Not really. I mean, I'm doing, if we had more money, I'd love to go and do things in a bigger and bolder vein. I'd probably love to do more around the Olympics. But again, it's so expensive at a high level. So probably more at the grassroots and helping individuals where we can. We do that already now, and I do it at a personal level. But probably just more of the same. Like I said, the last 10 years has probably been the best 10 years of my whole life. I'm very blessed. I have 2 wonderful children that watching them grow up. I've got great work colleagues. I'm lucky I've got a beautiful wife. I've got great friends. Like I said, if I died today and I was on the list and I knew what I knew, I'd say, you want to come back as me? I'm pretty happy, and it's not because you drive around in nice cars or you fly nice planes or any of that stuff. It's actually not because of that. That just makes life a little bit easier. It's the genuine satisfaction and fulfillment that I've really enjoyed, and I love learning from other people, and will continue to do so. I don't have all the answers, but as they say, plagiarism is the best form of flattery. So just steal as many ideas as you can from other people and implement them in your life, which is wonderful to like podcasts like this, to what you're doing and putting back in. You can listen to them, get some ideas, and say, hey, I'll take that, I'll disregard that, I'll make that a part of my life, which I think is very important.
I've loved today. I've loved getting to know you more, and I'm really learning even in real time as we're talking. To wrap up today, I'm going to give you the flip. Is there a question and anticipation of today that I haven't asked you that you're going to go to the office and go, Maisie should have asked me that question? Or the flip, is there a question you'd like to ask me?
Yeah, how do I live to that 100? That's what I want to live. That's awesome. But I will say just a couple of things. One, I didn't know any of the commentary that were coming, so I'm very humbled to hear that, and grateful for the people that actually made those lovely comments. But thanks for having me on the podcast. But yeah, the 100 years, what do I need to do?
We'll start now. And for anyone listening to this who's been to our corporate programs with Dr. Tom Buckley and I, like, we really look at what you do from late 30s to early 40s, set yourself up there. We're actually doing a big program with IAG, so we're talking to their executives on Monday next week at its time of recording, how to add 25 years to your life. So we've broken down all the different things. Now, first of all, don't smoke, don't make stupid decisions, have stress, but make sure you have strategic recovery. So the stuff you take care of. Physical activity is the big one. Then we'll obviously look at nutrition, connection. You're doing a lot of it, but we'll talk offline. I'm going to gift you our high-end human performance assessment. We're going to do your bloods. This is not just the bloods you do. I co-founded Executive Health Solutions, very supportive of that as a business, been good to me over the years, but a lot of corporates use that more on risk. And yet, a company, we're paying you a lot of money. We need to make sure you don't drop dead with one of the nasties, cancer or stroke. But what we do is look at all those blood markers. We're going to do DHEA, the precursor to testosterone. We'll look at vitamin D. We'll get a DEXA done. You're then going to sit down with my colleague and good buddy, Dr. Tom Buckley, and he's going to analyse that with precision medicine, wrap in some wearable tech, and then you get to talk to me in my shiny head. We're going to wrap it up, and we're going to get you kicking on to 90 or 100.
Awesome.
That's the shit that excites me, because we now have the science and the resources to literally add years. And it's not adding years when you're in palliative care. And as my mum says, I don't want to walk upstairs and hear my stomach rattle with all the pills. That's my mum's goal. I love that. They're still renovating homes, my mum and dad, in the late 70s. That's what's keeping them going.
Got to keep going. Never stop. Never stop.
So I would love to have that conversation with you offline.
Love to do it. Yeah, definitely.
Going to give back to you for what you've given to me, a small amount. Let's get you to the 90 or 100 year life.
100%, I'm up for it.
I've loved today.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. There's a whole bunch of people out there who totally appreciate you. And there's a whole bunch of people out there that you've made their life richer.
I'll leave mine richer too, don't worry about that.
Come on, give me a big hug.
Thank you.
1.5.